coaches' tirades and waking up a little late and not at your best on Sundays are some of the things that we are going to talk about this week on the Hockey Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kevin Olenek. You can like us on Facebook, the Hockey Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, the podcast_hockey, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are now officially on Spotify. We had some technical issues with Apple, but we're working them out. But wherever you get your podcast, you'll be able to find us and subscribe, and we'll be putting the links everywhere. It was a very interesting week with fundraisers and things like that. And I think it's fair to say when it was time to podcast this morning, for most of us, it sounded, when it was time to get up, sounded a little bit like this. Would that be accurate? Would you, like, when you woke up everyone this morning, it sounded like like that? Was that an accurate feeling for most of you?
Yes. It was not a fun wake up this morning.
Okay. Yes.
Say it was a rough is putting it lightly.
Right. Tyler, Devin, are you okay?
Oh yeah, just tired. I mean, I didn't think I could feel this good, this poorly on a Sunday after just 3 beers last night, but or 4. I think it was 4.
I feel great. I was up at 7:30. Did a bit of running around, got a coffee. I'm solid.
Show off.
He's like, well, I was up at 8, so he's like, Devin's like, screw you all. I was up early. I found a way to Sunday morning and be an adult. Why not you? Is that, is that fair? But yes, Devin, Sean, Heidi, Chris, and Tyler are all here. Lots to talk about from both the Flames and Canucks perspective, especially after they played last night. And the Flames, it was a tough week for both teams. Both teams came into that game with 3-game losing streaks. Both coaches had something to say for different reasons. And one message seemed like it was received a bit, and one message was not to the team, but to the officials of the National Hockey League. But we'll get into whether that message was received or not, or how that message needs to be conveyed differently, or if. But we'll start with kind of quickly going through the game. The Canucks jumped out like they did on December 29th and scored a goal in the opening minute was Tanner Pearson. And then Matthew Tkachuk got into a fight with JT Miller 1 second after that. And the Flames kind of took over a little bit. They got a goal from Derek Ryan about 4 minutes in, and then they took the lead. And then a funny bounce, which was not off the referee, which was off a stanchion. Adam Gaudette scored. Then Dylan Dubé scored in the second scoring to make it 3-2. And then the Flames basically wrapped it up in the third with scoring. Had a empty net goal from Reeder, who hit a post first. Anyway, Monahan scored, and Milan Lucic also scored 6-2. So I don't know where we want. I'll start with Devin. Maybe Devin can give his. We haven't heard from him in a while, and he woke up the earliest. So I'll get your perspective first of what you saw there during the game, or how are you feeling after this 6-2 victory for the Flames?
That was a massive win for the Flames. The past 9 games, it's been 3 wins and 6 losses. So. Including that one last night, and I think the way that the Flames were trending were not in a good way. They're more trending down than up, and it's not really the time of year to kind of figure out exactly what type of team you are. I didn't see much of the game. I saw a bit of it. The Tkachuk Miller fight, I think that shows. A lot of balls for Tkachuk, and shows some leadership, knowing that the way that the Flames are trending the past couple of games, and he knew that he needed to step up and do something, and he threw down with JT Miller, and that seemed to spark the flames. So it was nice to see that we were able to bounce back. But I think the next couple of games are going to be telling of how this game really. Hopefully that they can bounce in the right direction here.
Heidi, your thoughts? How are you feeling after this victory?
I was actually I was surprised. So didn't watch very much of the game, honestly, because we were at the Pig and Duke fundraiser last night. It was on the TV, but too busy kind of visiting with people and all that stuff. But saw the Flames were down after 35 seconds into the game. And I was actually talking to Manny from the Oilers YYC podcast, and I automatically said to him, I'm like, well, the Flames are going to lose. Because I always feel like if we don't get off to a good start, we just it's usually over for us. So I was actually surprised that they fought back, and so I was happy that they did. And I saw that the line combinations were kind of back to their old – they're kind of I don't know the old ones, but they were just kind of what I call the original lines, and it looks like it paid off for the Flames. But I think I need to actually sit and watch the whole entire game again, because I want to see what really was the changes. And yes, of course I loved seeing Tkachuk fight somebody, as I always do.
So they went back to Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm. It was Backlund, Tkachuk, and Mangiapane, Ryan, Lucic, and let me go. Jankowski, Bennett, Reeder, and then Ryan, Lucic, and Dubé were the lines. And then we haven't heard yet, but Travis Hamonic got hurt during the second period. He returned for a bit and then did not return. So we'll get into Flame injuries in a moment here, but I want to hear from the Canucks first, and then I have a couple of questions that we can all kind of quickly dive in here. Let's start with Chris. And then Tyler, and then Sean. How are you feeling after this loss and after this week of a 4-game losing streak?
Well, it's definitely not good for the standings, especially with how tight everything is and going into the stretch run. But that being said, I think the 2 points was a little bit more important for the Flames than it felt like it was for the Canucks. That being said, we shouldn't just give them away. But it seems like it was a fairly close game until the third. But, I wasn't huge on the loss, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world.
For me, Kevin, the 4-game losing streak is pretty concerning. It seems like their momentum that they had there for a good stretch has ended now. Still got quite a few games left on this homestand, though, to get things figured out. But the big concern is is the intensity and level of play as we head down the stretch here going up, and the Canucks not able to find another gear here, or is it just a little blip, in terms of struggles? I don't know. Watching the highlights there from last night, didn't look like Markstrom was particularly his best. I'm wondering if he's getting a little worn down now. He didn't get an all-star break. So there's a few things to get concerned about there for the Canucks. Certainly for Calgary, I think the desperation to get a win last night was higher, and they showed that, especially with Winnipeg nipping at their heels there with the win earlier in the day. So it's a good win for the Flames and another concerning loss for the Canucks.
Sean?
Yeah, I would be more concerned had the Canucks, had the other teams in the Pacific done anything during this 4-game streak. Canucks are still leading the division, so if they can get back on the winning ways, then this 4-game losing streak's not really going to be anything to worry about. But one thing I do think we need to see them take the bull by the horns and start shooting the puck more and driving the net more and finding ways to stop trying to be too fancy and cute to create highlight reel goals. Just get to the net, put the puck on net, and get some dirty goals here, and hopefully that will help turn things around.
The Flames won their second straight game.
There. Oh, hold on. Sorry.
I was just going to make a follow-up point to Sean there, Kevin. It's quite something on the power play when the play-by-play guy the other night in Minnesota is commenting on how just try something off the rush.
Yeah.
Even Shorty's starting to get impatient with the power play.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. But I do want to get to the Flames here first, because, and I want to start here with there was with tirade number 1. Let's hear Jeff Ward after the Nashville game.
You need more desperation. In a sentence, that's it. We're not desperate enough.
What aspect of the game in every aspect? Obviously, the third period when you guys didn't have a shot for 10 minutes.
Got to be. It's about compete right now. It's about how hard you want to compete. At the end of the day, when there's a loose puck, are we getting it or are they getting it?
Yeah, that was 30 seconds of a 7-minute non-stop tirade of a press conference from Jeff Ward after, the Flames got off to a pretty good start against San Jose, and then they tallied off after the Brent Burns goal, lost. They got off to a not terrible start against Nashville, but ended up losing that game. They had a total combined, I think if combined, I'll check, but I think it was no more than 15 shots in the combined 2 periods between San Jose and Nashville. Devin, Heidi, I'll start with one of you two guys can pick. Who, from your perspective, was this a worthy tirade from Jeff Ward?
I think so. I think need to hear something from him, because these losses are getting frustrating. To watch the team kind of like come out to a fairly good start and look good, but not look good consistently for an entire game. So yeah, I think sometimes it is necessary for the coach to come out and say these things, and maybe he'll give the guys on the team a little bit of a kick in the ass. So, because obviously, like, maybe something worked, because they looked a lot better last night.
It definitely is concerning. I earlier in the year, you had Bill Peters, when he was still the head coach, come out, say very similar things. You had Jeff Ward. I listened to him on Fan 960 after a game. I think it was in November. Said something very similar. It's very concerning to me, because it's just the same stuff over and over again. The complete level, the give a crap meter, willing to play the right game, and it's very consistent, and it does concern me going into the playoffs. So him coming out and saying it, you could hear the frustration in his voice. You could, which is rightfully so, because he's basically saying the exact same thing over and over and over again until he's blue in the face. And they're who knows if they're going to keep going the way they were going in the game last night against the Canucks, and hopefully they can, because if they can, then there's hope there. But overall, I am concerned. I want to see more consistency within their game, and first of all, coming out in the first period and playing well is a good start. But I just need to see more consistency through game to game.
Yeah, and also there is maybe not only just last night, not only some of the tirades from Jeff Ward this year, Bill Peters. I want to take you back a couple of years ago when this happened. Yes, that was Glenn Gullickson tossing a stick into the stands at the Saddle Dome after the Flames beat the LA Kings back in 2016. I remember last year Bob Nicholson talked about the Oiler organization and how there was something in the water with that. I sometimes wonder what is really going on in the Flames organization. I mean, I don't want to get into like some in-depth look at the history, but this team hasn't made the playoffs 2 years in a row in the last 10. They've been in and out, in and out, in and out. And part of it, to me, we'll get into the coaching aspect here with Ward, because I have some things to say about that. But just something within this organization seems too comfortable at times. Like there's not really a fear of winning or losing. It feels at times with the Calgary Flames that they just go into, the obligation is to go into work, put on your jersey, do your hockey gaming, go home, take a nap, go back to practice. It's a job. It doesn't feel like, to me, that the Calgary Flames are known for loving passionately the hockey game. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? There's something wrong within this there's an organizational problem within the Calgary Flames.
I think that's a justified thing to say, because there seems to be, as I said, the inconsistency, the lack of giving a shit and all that stuff, for sure. And I don't know, I can't put my finger on what it could possibly be, but that's definitely a thought and discussion that's worth having, Kevin.
I think looking at the core of the Flames, and it's been talked about throughout this entire year, and at the end of last year, how got bounced from Colorado in 5 games. It's concerning, because you have the Giordano's and the Kachucks of the team, but then it's hard to see Johnny care more about the team than himself. Monahan, I feel like he's taken a step this year and showed that he actually gives a shit. And it's definitely concerning. And from an outside's perspective, it's hard to pinpoint, like Kevin was saying, and Heidi, and I don't know exactly what it is, but whatever it is needs to change. And I know that looking back when Taylor Hall, when Taylor Hall first came into the Oilers organization, Andrew Ferentz was a captain, and I remember him saying that there was a divide in the room up in Edmonton about 5 years ago, and it was the old guys who gave a shit and the young guys who didn't care, and that showed on the ice. So maybe there's something similar with Calgary.
Yeah, it's something I've been kind of watching on the Canucks side. I know we're talking Flames here, but if you look at, I think the best team for this is Winnipeg. There is a bunch of players that are key players and that absolutely love hockey and are hockey nerds, led by Scheifele, where you can't knock their commitment. And I definitely think there's something missing in the Flames in the Flames room, where you don't have that one person who is able to rally the troops and tell them that and get them excited about going out and playing hockey. I would say Kevin had it right. It's just, it feels too corporate, too much like a job for the Flames right now.
Yeah, I'll agree with Kevin's. I think, Kevin, you used the word comfortable as well, and the ownership's been committed to Brad Treliving as the general manager, and Brad Treliving's been committed to this core. And are they really taking a step? Last year it seemed like it with the first place finish, and then that was all kind of quickly flushed away with the short playoff series against Colorado. one thing I found was when we were at the game on December 29th, and a little hard to tell because there's so many Canuck fans in the rink, and we were way up in the press level. But am I crazy to say I felt a sense of indifference from the Flames fans over the play? Like, the fans are still going, but there doesn't seem to be much sort of urgency there to do anything about a team that's struggling. Like in other places, the fans start getting nasty, start booing more. There's craziness on the airwaves and on Twitter, and I don't sense a lot of that with the Flames. Fans are just kind of just waiting and seeing how it's going to go here. Now, it's kind of funny to have this conversation because it's just after a fairly big win by the Flames, and they're still in playoff position, and here we are wondering what's wrong with them.
Well, but on the other hand, though, it's been such a inconsistent, as someone tweeted to me yesterday, the Flames are consistently inconsistent, that you can come away with this thinking, yeah, that it's a big win, but at the same time, what's going to happen the rest of the week? They're going into the House of Horrors of Anaheim. They still haven't really solved Anaheim. LA has actually dominated them pretty much this year, and San Jose just came off a victory over them. And by the way, San Jose is not that far out of a playoff position that if they can get on a roll, they might get back into this. So I can't sit here with the Flames and necessarily say that I feel that they're in a good position after this win against Vancouver. Like, I don't feel like, I think from a Flames fan perspective, there's this sort of like, yeah, but is everything really okay?
The two words that kind of pop into my head is chronic complacency. Like, it just seems like no matter what changes, they seem to always get back to this point where it's just like a sort of feeling.
Well, and that's why they felt like they needed to bring in Bill Peters, and because he was someone who's more of a taskmaster coach who's going to try and make things uncomfortable for the players and create some more emotion when the Flames don't necessarily have it.
Yeah, Devin, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I to Sean's point, you had Bob Harley, who was a bit two-faced, to the media. He was, a lovable, joking guy, but then in the room, everybody, kind of disliked him. And then you had Glenn Gultson, who was a player's coach, and, it was kind of like the three bears of having one bowl is porridge too hot, then one bowl of porridge too cold, and then they thought they had it with Bill Peters, but it just seems like to Chris's point, chronic just lack of give a shit, and it's very concerning, and it needs to be rectified. Now this might be a very hot take, but I think that we should sell before the trade deadline. I don't think this is a team, even if we get in, I don't think this is a team that has the heart and soul to get past the first round and, trade TJ Brody, trade Travis Hamonic, and, see what we can get for them on the market. And then in the summertime, trade Johnny Gaudreau, because I think he's one of the key problems in that room. And it's shown with his play is it just doesn't seem like he's into it this year, and even at the end of last year, it didn't seem like he's into it. He can't find what makes him tick anymore. It seems, and I don't know. I'd say that he would be, if he's the problem, then that needs to go. But I don't think that we should make a push for the playoffs. I think we should sell.
I don't think that's that hot of a take, Devin. I'm kind of with you on that.
Well, I just pulled the Flames up on Cap Friendly, and it's quite evident that there could be a big change coming, especially on the blue line. They only have three defensemen signed past this season: Giordano, Hannafin, and Anderson. So that they're playing, like, they've got Valimaki, but you don't know what you have with him coming back from that serious of a knee injury. So, I think it's definitely something that they should look at. They won't do it. It'll be a hockey trade more than anything else. But I do think that come the summer that they need to take a big and it sounds, based off of all the rumors we've heard, it sounds like that's what Treliving's trying to do. He's trying to shake this core up. He tried to go out and get Nazem Kadri in the summer. If the rumors are true, the Flames were second in line to get Taylor Hall. So, but I'm not even sure that would have been the right. Does Taylor Hall have that? Have the killer instinct that the Flames are lacking? I don't know, but he is trying. He just hasn't found that right deal that he's been able to pull the trigger on.
Well, here's the other. Okay, and that's interesting because something I'll have to. I want to absorb because I never really thought about selling. I was looking at a hockey trade. I definitely was not in the rent-a-player trade. I was thinking I think a hockey trade needed to happen. Maybe it needs to be a sell, but that leads to some other questions that here. But I want to with Tria. Maybe that's for another day. But here's the other problem, and I think that this is partially on Tree, I think, too. And I think that there's some blame here, and I think I want to focus on the specific coaching of Jeff Ward here, because the guy, part of the frustration here is a couple of guys that have the give a shit meter can't seem to find their way into the lineup, or if they're playing a little bit, if they're playing good for some unknown reason, Jeff Ward would change the lines up for something else for some unknown reason. One of them is, and I can't believe, Devin, I said this last week, I can't believe this, I'm going to say this again. I don't understand how Zach Ronaldo cannot get back into this lineup. This guy, for all of the crap that he pulls, he has a give-a-shit meter. He has an absolute give-a-shit meter. Like, I think if he was in that lineup against Edmonton a couple of weeks ago, I think that game would have turned out very differently. Not in the sense that I don't think that the Oilers would have won or not, but I think there would have been a couple of different results. I think we would have been having a different conversation than what Milan Lucic ended up doing. And sure, he's been fine this week, but, an Oilers performance is 10 times more than everything else. So, but he can't seem to get into the lineup. And then Buddy Robinson, who I think has a bit of a give-a-shit meter, for some reason was scratched last night. And yes, the Flames won, but I still don't understand the guys that are actually making an effort can't get themselves off the pine. And yet we keep seeing Mark Jankowski on the ice.
Yeah, that might be... I agree with you, Kev. At the beginning of the year, I said I didn't want Zach Ronaldo on the team because he's a rat, but, he brings energy to the lineup. He can skate, unlike Lucic. He creates energy. You notice him on the ice when he's on there, and that's the big difference. And same with Buddy Robinson. Like, he wants to be in the NHL. He wants to show, the Flames organization that he can play, up in the big at the big stage, and it is frustrating to see Jankowski rolled in day after day. I try and give the benefit of the doubt to the players, but it does come down to the coach, and it does come down to Treliving, because Treliving might be giving Jeff Ward a little tap on the shoulder, be like, hey man, you need to be playing Jankowski. Maybe he can raise his trade value so we can get rid of him, kind of thing. But as of right now, it is a little bit frustrating to see, but I don't put it all on Jeff Ward. When it comes down to it, it comes down to the players and their willingness to compete. And, Ronaldo and Buddy Robinson, and even Austin Zarnik down in Stockton now, he's lighting it up in the AHL, but he hasn't had a chance to get back to the NHL after he's, right before he got injured. He was on the power play, and you could tell 3 or 4 games before he got injured that he was ramping it up, and that he was starting to click with the team, and it is frustrating. So I think it's a little bit of a column A of Brad Treliving maybe giving like I said, a tap on the shoulder to Ward, and Ward not putting certain guys in for whatever reason he has. But it at the end of the day, it does come down to the players and whether or not they're willing to compete and willing to care.
I'm with Devin 100% on that. I often in sports, when you encounter head scratching lineup decisions, you have to question whether there's some bigger objectives coming from above. Because you're right, Kevin. I mean, you broke it down pretty nicely there. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense how it's being done, but maybe there's some attempts at moving certain players as well.
Right. So the UFAs coming off the books that we know for sure, Buddy Robinson, or that are not scheduled to come back for 2021. Buddy Robinson, Tobias Reeder, Zach Ronaldo, TJ Brody, Travis Hamonic, Michael Stone, Brandon Davidson, Cam Talbot. The RFAs are Oliver Shillington, Andrew Mangiapane, he needs to be signed, Mark Jankowski. Bye, everybody. And then I'm assuming, and I think it's I'll go 90% certain that Milan Lucic will be bought out at the end of the year. Maybe that's, so maybe there will be an opportunity here to make some changes. But I think the fact that Devin brought up after this first place finish last year, and I know that things changed throughout, I think this leads to some questions about, I think a deeper dive into the performance of Brad Treliving too, for a future conversation, which maybe we'll get into next week on that, because, I think, for Canucks fans, they've been ranting on Jim Benning and what he has not done in terms of creativity. I think looking at Brad Treliving, I'm not sure I see a creativity here. You could argue Benning has done a better job than Treliving.
Well, one player you did miss on the expiring contracts is Austin Czarnik.
Because he's not on the roster right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be a UFA at the end of the season as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good chunk out. So
okay, and then the other thing is, let's look at the buyout situation for Lucic if they do it this summer. Next season they save $500,000. The season after they save $2 million. The season after that they save $500,000, and then for the next 3 seasons after that they've got a dead cap space of $500,000.
Yeah, but the only other thing with that too is if you keep Lucic, you have to protect him.
Do you?
Yeah. He is a person you have to protect.
Why would you have to protect him?
That's because I think I can't remember off the top of my head. It's because I think the rules for this expansion. I'll quickly Google.
Oh, he's got a restricted no movement clause. Okay, there it is.
Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly, but that's part of the problem. So that's why that's why people are saying that you're buying out Lucic. If you're going to do it, you need to do it this year.
Well, hold on here. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe he'll want to he'll understand it and wait. That's the other option. They don't have to. They can ask him to waive it for the expansion, but
if you protect Lucic, if you don't buy him out, you could lose someone bigger. You could lose a Mangiapane or a Mangiapane. I'm like looking at this roster. You could lose a Mangiapane and then and I have nothing. So, but you don't want to lose a Mangiapane, is my point.
Yeah.
Or even a Derek Ryan for that matter. But, so I think this coming week, I think, will be interesting. Heidi, did you have anything to add to this, or?
No, I'll just say that, I think, I just agree with everyone that, it can't just be blame necessarily on Ward. Like, there's definitely some stuff up with Trey Living, and he's probably influencing this somehow or another. And it's still up to the players as well. But it would be one of these days we should actually maybe dive a little bit more into Trey Living. And I'm seeing a little bit more of that talk around on Twitter and various social medias and stuff with the Calgary Flames fans, is everyone's getting frustrated at Trey Living.
Right. Yeah, so we will dive into that. Devin has to leave us as he has some other things going on, and he gets up at 7:30 and the rest of us are like sleeping. So he's kind of like, look, you guys. Anyway, but Devin, maybe a little bit later on this week, maybe we'll do a quick podcast. We have to break down the Leafs trade and what's been going on there. But so maybe I'll message you privately about that if we could do that quickly sometime during the week if you have some time. But have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, that sounds great, Kev. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Devin. Devin leaving us for Adventures Unknown as the end of the Skype there. So that's basically the Flames part. Now, the tirade that came from the Canucks was from after Monday's game in Boston. Here is Travis Green.
I'm so frustrated with that. This guy's one of the best young players in the league. And he gets hit, and he's totally defenseless. He's got, it's 2 seconds after he lets go of the puck. I've watched it a couple times. He's unassuming. He has no, he's defenseless. And he feels like there's no way he's going to get hit in that spot. He's in a vulnerable position. Those are hits that the league is trying to get out of the game, especially against top young guys, top players in the league. And I think Petey's shown that he's one of those guys.
All right, so yes, that conversation started earlier in the week, and then it really delved into the second intermission of Saturday's game as well between the Flames and the Canucks, because the Flames did not stop going after Petterrsson. I want to start with Tyler because he's the referee. From your perspective, when you hear these type of complaints about stars or players not getting calls, how do you feel about that? And maybe from another perspective, when you see something that blatantly missed, which I don't think anyone here is going to disagree, that was a penalty on Grizzly. There's no question about it. But from your perspective as a referee, how do you respond to that kind of criticism?
Well, our job is to enforce the rules for everybody.
Okay.
Like the coach is trying to make the argument that the standards should be tighter to protect the star players. And I mean, I don't know what internally the NHL has as directives for its refs. It certainly seems like in the NBA, the star players have a different standard applied to them than the lesser knowns. But, as far as I am aware with hockey, I mean, the rule book is supposed to be applied consistently for everybody involved. So there's really not much for a referee to really do other than shrug their shoulders at a comment like that.
But if you missed that call,
yeah,
how do you feel about that from a referee's perspective?
Not good. If you miss a call and somebody's, there's nothing that comes of it, like an injury or a goal against or whatever, like then that's easy to kind of shake off and say, well, it was a miss, but not a big deal. But when you miss a call and somebody's injured because of it, you don't feel good about it at all.
Okay, so
and it can make your game go a lot worse too, right? Things can spiral out of control if you miss something like that.
And fortunately, because it was in the third period, that didn't necessarily happen against Boston. Okay, so let's start here. Do we feel that Petterrsson is getting far too much abuse?
Yes.
Yes, but where is the rest of the team to make that accountability factor kick in with the opposition? I mean, it's another example of he's left to fend for himself out there so much of the time. Shouldn't be like that.
No, I agree with Tyler there. The Canucks need to stand up for Petterrsson. That being said, for me, it's not the fact that the star players are getting that aren't getting special treatments. It's the fact that there are calls that are blatant calls that are missed. Like and this is from Tyler. Like one of my favorite sayings that you have is, it seems like they pick and choose what part of the rule book to call every game sometimes. And like you look at last night, there was that just brutal slew foot on Petterrsson and with no call. Like I don't understand. I don't understand how they can call one thing on one night and not the next. Like the consistency, I know it's a tough thing to do, but the consistency just drives me nuts because there is none.
Yeah, and from referee to referee or pairings getting mixed and matched, I mean, it's hard to get consistency even under ideal circumstances. I was actually talking with the referees I worked with last night in Kitimat. There might be some merit in like pairing up referees and keeping them as a duo throughout the year. Like football they'll put a crew of 6 together and keep them together the whole season. CFL more so than the NFL, but I think that there may be something to be said there for achieving consistency if you did that. But with travel and logistics and everything, I don't know. Maybe that gets too complicated.
If other leagues are able to do it, I think why not the NHL? Because if it brings more consistency, I think it's worth it. It also seems like it's a thing across all leagues recently where everyone is always seeming to be complaining about a missed call by a ref. So it just seems like if it's working for like a league like the CFL, like obviously logistics comes into play, but I think if the payoff is worth it, then you have to pay the price.
And I get the it's, again, I think it's a lot tougher for the NBA and NHL to do that because of how many games there are and how much travel there is. The Major League Baseball does it, but they have these series where teams hunker down in one city for 3-4 days. So it's a lot easier to do it that way as opposed to where you've got, again, we'll go back to how ridiculous some of the travel is. Canucks fly out to San Jose, then out to the East Coast, down, and then to Minnesota and Winnipeg. Like it's the travel and scheduling needs to be fixed before they can. I think they can logistically do that to a level that would allow for better consistency on the officiating, because either that or start using the technology that we have where you have, are they not connected via microphones and headsets talking about, oh, did you see that? Should that be a penalty? Yeah, let's call that. Or no, that's not a penalty. Because I think that's part of the issue is that because you have two guys who don't always work together, like, oh, he'll call that, and the other guy doesn't.
Or even, and this, this may not be agreed upon here, but maybe I would be willing to trade the offside challenge, which is like, it's so weird overall, for having a challenge for a hit that looks like a penalty. So, as an example, when Giordano hit McDavid a couple weeks ago, the Oilers could have challenged if that was a penalty. And if they deemed it to be a penalty, I would be okay with the Oilers having a power play. Because to me, that to me, I think, I mean, I haven't looked at the offside part of this in terms of the percentage, but it seems to me that the linesmen are getting that more right than not. But the hit is the one that I think needs it, like from a referee, from officials' perspective, is the tougher one to always notice because of the speed of the game, where you are, chemistry, things like that. That's one I think I would be open to having a video challenge for a video review for.
I disagree, Kev. I don't think they need. I think they need to get rid of as much of the video review as possible, but use different technology to help the communication of the officiator, of the officials, because I think that's more the issue than anything else. And video review is just, I'm getting fed up with it. Like, it slows the game down.
I don't favor any expansion of review at this point.
Well, I'm not expanding it. I'm training it, though. I'm getting rid of offside for the illegal, for the questionable hit.
No, again, I don't like it.
Okay.
Because I think it opens up a bigger can of worms than it really needs, than we really need. Like, hockey's a fast enough game, and I know we're in a bit of a shit on the officials part right now, but what can the league do to help the officials call the game correctly the first time? That's what we should be looking at as for hockey and NHL, as opposed to giving them a second or third look at the same play.
We have a pause here. I don't know. I guess for me, from my perspective, is because of the speed of the game, it's really hard for me to sit here and expect an official to get it right that much of the time, because I do think that they're human, and even though we don't necessarily treat them as human, things do get missed. But I do understand what you're saying, Sean, that I think, the video is tying things up, and it's not like you want that done and got right away. But I guess where's that healthy balance?
What about potentially having part of the officiating crew, like, up in the rafters with the media guys, looking down from up there, and maybe having them as part of an official group that can make the call, because they have, more of a viewpoint from, like, where a fan's seeing it from, as opposed to, like, down on the ice in the thick of things. It might help pick up some of those calls that get missed.
And then then you definitely would need to have some sort of communication between.
Yeah, and actually I wanted to add on to that, because, like, I think that actually that's a great idea from Sean, that it's something that they should look into, having the refs actively talk to each other instead of just assuming.
I'm assuming that they are talking to each other.
Well, Tyler, like, if you're two-manning, like, how much communication is there during the play?
None. How are you going to communicate?
Exactly, right? So,
yeah.
And that's the issue. Is not necessarily. It's during the play when you have two guys who have two refs that haven't really. Maybe they were a ref with another ref the day before or 2 days before, and haven't really refed with this guy in a while, and you're trying to remember what their tendencies are and trying to remember what they will call, and next thing you know, you've missed the call. So, and that's what I'm saying is what can change that can help make the refs get the call right the first time without having to go to review. And my issue with your idea, Kevin, with, like, switching to having reviewing hits is that you end up reviewing way too much. We already have too much review, and you'd end up adding, like, one or two every period, because there are hits and plays that are borderline every shift. So it doesn't. All you're doing is making an already long game longer.
Okay, it was my idea, and that's fine. But let's get to the protection part of this from the Canucks perspective. I'm going to read a tweet from Bob Stauffer here. I want to find it first. Hang on. He's talking about Connor McDavid. And Bob Stauffer, for those who don't know, is the Oilers color commentator on their radio broadcast. I'm not dissing Bob Stauffer, I'm making a point here. This is from 2018, but he's said a few more things about this, but this is a nutshell of a consistent tweet theme that he has said about Connor McDavid. The NHL, the only league in the world more worried about protecting the Matthew Tkachuks of the game over a Connor McDavid. Do you feel, and I'm bringing up Connor McDavid for this reason here, do you feel in terms of compare and contrast, which is sometimes hard to do the Oilers do a better job of protecting McDavid than the Canucks do Pettersson? Or do you feel it's the same? Or what can the Canucks do differently to protect Pettersson? And maybe protect is not the right word. Maybe the better word is defend. Because I don't think Pettersson is requiring protection per se of like, he's a soft player, he doesn't want to get into a fight, or he's not intense. But he's a guy you do want on the ice, and you do not want him injured. And if he is your most important player, you need to defend to that most important player. So maybe
it's so tough because with how are they going to protect or defend a player when what are you wanting them to do? Are you wanting them to go in and have a scrum? Because I don't think that the Oilers are doing much, or if anything, differently than the Canucks in terms of protecting / defending their star player.
They have a Zach Kassian riding shotgun with McDavid, which in theory
has that really done anything though?
I don't know. I mean, he's still getting his abuse.
Sorry, Kev. If you ask the Oilers YYC guys, they go on their feet every game. It's, oh my God, McDavid's been touched again. Like, it happens every game. They have the star players need to fight through it, but the refs need to call the game correctly, and the team needs to find a way to just make sure that they find a way to give the space to those the players, just in scheme and planning. Find a way to throw a quote unquote pick here or there and open up the ice for players like Pettersson and McDavid.
I do think the Oilers, for all of the complaining and laughing and stuff that we do, it's McDavid, for the most part, I do feel gets a lot of open ice. And part of that is because of his ability to skate, for sure, and his own ability. But I do think, I'm not sitting here and loving on Zach Kassian, but I do think that there is some opening there. And maybe that's partially McDavid, and maybe that's partially a coach into Dave Tippett. I don't know. But I'm just bringing that up as what can the Canucks do to help Pettersson and support Pettersson?
Again, it's all scheme and try and find a way to create that open ice. I would say most of what the open ice you see McDavid has is self-created. Like, he's the best skater in the NHL. Like, I don't understand. I don't think that they've done anything special to create that room. That's just him being that damn good.
Right. That's fair. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say though a little bit, Sean, is Pettersson also needs to find ways to adapt his game to create those openings.
Yeah, he does, and that's just the way it is. I don't know how, like I said, I agree with Tyler and the fact that the rule book is a rule book and you call it as is. But if the rule book isn't being called, he still needs to find a way to fight through it.
Because unless we want scrums and fights after every single questionable hit, you're not going to get anywhere or advance the game in any way if everyone's just always fighting to defend someone. So, you have to be, I guess, to Sean's credit, more proactive about it and try and actually be better as a player and try and avoid those situations.
Yeah, and just Pettersson and the Canucks need to find a way to open up the ice for him, just like the officials need to find a way to get the calls correct and the and all that. Like it's a two-way street. And as much as we want to complain about it, the way the NHL is being called right now is they're definitely letting some more things go, but you got to find a way, especially come to playoffs. They let a lot go in the playoffs.
So
and with I would go one step further in the playoffs. I mean, you don't know what you're freaking going to get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, there's stretches where it's let them play, and then there's other stretches where it's just random things being picked out here and there. Like, it's just guesswork sometimes.
And
it's so frustrating.
In past years, it's like it seems like they started with we're going to call everything and we're going to be hard about it this year, and then by the time you get to the Stanley Cup final, it's old school playoff hockey again.
Yeah. And look, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse in terms of consistency.
And that's why
if people haven't seen the Rick Westhead TSN documentary, the 2-part thing called Ref You Suck, watch it, because you'll hear from a former NFL referee about the problem that exists in all sports with officiating and the depth of officiating that's getting thinner and thinner.
Yeah, and that's a big issue, and that's why the NHL needs to lead the way and find a way to use the technology that we have at our hands to help the refs out the first time while they're on the ice, instead of after a whistle looking at a tablet in the timekeeper's box. So, or phoning a friend and asking for help. Like, use communication to find a way to help these refs see more and communicate better and get the calls right first will go a long way and to fixing the inconsistencies a lot more than more video review.
Tyler, from your perspective, I didn't really want to go here, but I think that this conversation is leading us here. Do you feel, in terms of development of amateur officials, air quotes amateur officials, that there has been a good, like, how are you feeling about the development of amateur officials? Like the clinics that are being put on, the opportunities out there, the education out there. What are you feeling? What are things that are working, and what are things that can be improved?
Well, I mean, I think that, I'm only familiar with what BC Hockey does. I think they're doing everything they can. I mean, there's a mentorship program that exists now that's been around for a few years, where you have senior officials go to tournaments, and you have a concentration of games and officials, and you work with them and give them feedback. I mean, I think that's been good. The clinics, I think, are better now, with more use of video examples to show people what's a penalty, what's not a penalty. That it's very interactive. I think at the end of the day, the root problem that exists with officiating is something that can't be solved, and that is that there is a lot of abuse that people have to take, and there's only so many people willing to overcome those initial years of flack and keep pursuing it beyond that. People eventually say it's not worth it. Somebody else can do it. And so, I worked in a senior hockey league, and people are screaming that the officiating is not up to par with the level of play. Well, you don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that the guys doing the games are bad officials. I believe in all the guys. I believe strongly in my work. I think we're more than qualified to be out there. But if you want more variety, well, you got to stop driving them away.
Yeah. And that's the tough part. And even in junior hockey, from what I've seen, I mean, the fans, the parents will yell at the refs, and there's some under the age of 18 that are, I mean, it's like, it's a tough job. Like, and I don't think the pay is enough for a lot of people to continue in that. And I kind of understand that. So, I mean, I think the takeaway from this is there's a lot of things to take away from this, but I think what is coming through here is the NHL needs to find a way to improve officiating not only on their level but in a grassroots level as well. And we've talked about that with women's hockey, and maybe we need to see more of that conversation with officials around Canada and the United States. I mean, it would be interesting to hear from Devin even how officiating was when it was coming up, right? So because he played at a game at a higher level, but. Yeah, I think that's more of the takeaway that I'm getting the sense of here than it is more about finding the tough guy to protect Petterrsson. Because we'll be celebrating a couple of guys later this week that didn't necessarily have the toughest guy beside them, but they were able to create room, and really their style changed the game and what they did. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation that will go on. I will give Canuck fans credit, though. I don't feel like Canuck fans are saying Petterrsson can't be touched. I think that they want a call. When Petterrsson is hit on the boards or he's slew-footed, call the penalty. I don't think that they're wanting special privileges for Petterrsson, where I feel some Oiler fans are like, my God, McDavid is defended in the defensive zone. Can you call, like, they took the puck away. Can you call that a penalty? Sorry. It's just... Some Oiler fans, not all Oiler fans.
We definitely have fun going after Oilers fans, but they just make it so easy sometimes.
That's very true. Very true.
One thing I'd like, in what you were saying there, Kev, about supporting the grassroots reffing and officials. When Heidi and I went to the Hitmen game back early December versus Everett, it was all of a sudden there's all these stripes coming out through the tunnel, and they had just done a clinic with a bunch of young refs and to teach to give them some instruction and all that. And so I know there is a lot of support out there, but we need to make sure that as hockey fans and people who are involved in the sport make sure that everyone who has access to those and you can create them, and we support the refs so that we don't, as Kevin said, Tyler said, we aren't chasing potential officials away just because we're a bunch of jerks who are going to whine and complain and yell and insult people when they don't when the calls don't go the way we want them.
Yeah.
I just maybe a tangent. Sorry, Heidi. I tried me for this if it's a tangent, but one of the problems I think that does exist with officiating at the amateur levels is you look at for example, up here in northern BC, we're part of the Northwest District, okay? And so there'd be like an executive for each minor hockey association, and then there'd be another level for the district. Well, sometimes I have to wonder, is the district interested in protecting the refs, right? Like there's a lot of conflicting interests there with parents and wanting to, exposure opportunities for players to get into above minor programs, and, coaches have their ideas, and there's a lot of different political agendas there. But are the referees' interests really high on the radar? I question that sometimes. Like do the powers that be higher above, do they really have the officials' backs? I think it would be naive to say that the officials' backs are had all the time. I don't know about that. So that's one of the things too, is like at all levels of a sports organization and the various governing bodies, the officials need to have protection. You want to get rid of verbal abuse? I mean, if an official gives a coach a game misconduct for verbal abuse, suspend the guy. They'll get the message a little more. I just don't think there's any political will to do that, though.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it, and they need to figure out how to support it. Otherwise, you're just gonna have the same issues, and as you said, Tyler, they're be thinning the herd. And
yeah, I mean, I think there's pretty good support in place in terms of coaching and instruction and the mechanics and pairing up inexperienced people with experienced people and letting them get their feet wet and develop some confidence and all of those kinds of things. But it's what drives people away is that they just get tired of being yelled at. Yeah. You know, get some security in the stands. When a parent's berating the referee, go tell them to beat it.
Yeah.
You know, like quit screwing around with the refs. You don't have any.
Yep.
Well, I mentioned that Rick Westhead documentary. They were talking about how there's high school football games not being played on Friday nights in a lot of places in the U.S. now because they don't have enough referees.
And if it gets any worse here in Canada, who knows if that becomes a thing with hockey in Canada? Are we going to run out of referees at a certain point in the minors?
I mean, Prince Rupert, they're bringing in guys from out of town to do house games at the midget level because they don't have anybody. Yeah. There's one guy there is literally taped up. He's in his 50s, and he's got a taped up shoulder. We're running him out there still because there isn't anybody else, and he loves doing it. You know, I'm not looking to create this sappy story here, but that's how it's become. You've got like around here, a lot of the guys I work with. I'm 35 years old. I'm often the junior guy on the crew with people I'm working with. I mean, these guys love being out there, and they love the camaraderie, and they love the game, and all that. But I mean, they're old. They're not going to do it forever.
Yeah,
and they're not referees. They're linesmen. A lot of these guys.
Yeah. And another thing that I love that the NFL has done this, and I think the NHL needs to adopt this as well for their broadcasts. I think the fact that the NFL has added a rules analyst to all of their broadcasts, their main broadcasts, I think that's something that Sportsnet needs to add as well. Add a referee analyst in there. Explain what is going on and what the officials are thinking instead of us screaming at the TV or screaming at the crowd or screaming at whatever and not understanding exactly what's going on.
Do you think Gary Bettman in the NHL would allow that? I don't think so.
I think they'd be stupid not to. I think that is totally enhanced an NFL broadcast because now I can understand what is the referee looking at? Why are they, is it the knee? Why is that rule there? It just allows for a more enjoyable and educated broadcast. I don't understand how Bettman could opposite that.
I'm not sure how the NHL would necessarily feel about it, but I think that TSN's feature that they did a couple seasons ago with Kerry Fraser was actually like a great stepping stone for something like that. So if they can just kind of mainstream that into a broadcast, even if it's just a segment in an intermission to clarify stuff, I think that would be an improvement. But yeah, if Kevin's idea of like having one during the middle of the game, I'm not sure if that would logistically work out as far as, giving time for the guy to talk and explain stuff. But yeah, I think I would more so be a fan of like something in the intermission.
Yeah. TSN had sort of explored that a little bit with Kerry Fraser. And it helped a little bit, but it just never seemed to me like Kerry Fraser was that keen on throwing former colleagues under the bus if they had something wrong.
Yeah, you still have to develop that, and there's some work that needs to be done, but I think that's a way to educate fans on what they're seeing. To me,
yeah. During the game, you see, football, especially the NFL, it's a little easier for them to do that. You got a 40-second play clock. There's time to squeeze in, time for the referee analyst. Whereas in hockey, it's moving by pretty fast. It'd be easier said than done to make that work, I think, to Chris's point.
Yeah,
and that's why I was saying intermission as opposed to during the game.
Yeah. So that led down that rabbit trail. Sorry for that rabbit trail, but I do think that it's an important rabbit trail when we're talking about here, because I do think, like, as the season goes on from the Canucks' perspective in a playoff run, it's going to get more intense, and I think there will be a lot more conversations around officiating and battle. And I think which leads us to some bad news from the Canucks here. Brock Besser got injured. It was not a dirty play. It was an innocent play. He was battling along the wall there in the neutral zone with Andrew Mangiapane. But it looks like about 10 to 14 days, maybe 3 weeks without Brock Besser. What are your guys' thoughts on that as we hear that news? It's obviously not good news. It's bad news. But what do you see going forward?
We need more people, a couple guys to step up. Needed like a Adam Gaudette to step up for 10 to continue to play at the level he's at. And then we need someone to step up and play with Bo Horvat and Tanner Pearson. Because I think the honeymoon period of the swan song of Louis Eriksson is done at this. So they definitely need to find someone to make that Bo Horvat line a lot more dangerous. Because if they can get that, then it'll help a lot. Because luckily for them, they have got Jake Virtanen, who's shown well enough to play with Petterrsson and Miller, so they've got someone to fill into that line. But then you need to find someone to step up into that to a second/third line role with Horvat, and then replacing Virtanen on that third line. So I just need someone to step up. This is where the depth that Jim Benning has been trumpeting, and looks like the Canucks have had all season, is going to come to fruition here if going to hold on to this division lead and stay in the playoffs.
Kevin, I'd feel better about the situation if Josh Levo was close to coming back, but like whoever steps in for Besser, is he going to be better than Besser? I mean, Besser's been not that great lately, in my opinion. But the alternative, is that going to be better? I don't know. Somebody's got to step up, though, just like Sean said. I mean, that's how it works in hockey. That's how it works in a lot of sports. It's a next man up mentality, or it's a team sport. Other people have to get the job done.
Yeah, I echo both guys. I have nothing to add there.
So the official on the Canucks injury, it's day-to-day for upper body for Besser. Oscar Vandenberg has a concussion. He's day-to-day. Mott has a shoulder day-to-day. Josh Levo is at day-to-day, but he's long. And then Michael Furland, depending on perspectives here, is supposed to go to Utica. There's been a number of things, but again, a concussion that can be questionable. That's probably the guy that I can see, if being a good replacement to Brock Besser. But maybe you're right, a Levo, a Mott, something like that. So that will be interesting going forward. I quickly want to touch on this because Sean brought it up, and I do think this road trip for the Canucks was an example of part of the problem. And I didn't have a chance to really dig into I want to dig into do my own research on San Jose, Anaheim, LA road trips in the future in comparison. But the Canucks had to travel for their road trip. They went to San Jose on last Saturday. Then they they went San Jose. Then they went off to the island, or the Islanders in Brooklyn. Then the next day went off to Carolina. Then went to Boston on Monday. So they had a 3 and 4 nights with travel, 3 road games in 4 nights. Yes, it's the same time zone, but we're still packing and unpacking and going to a hotel and not another hotel. And then heading out to another time zone in Minneapolis to finish up this road trip with the Minnesota Wild, and then back having a couple of days off playing the Flames. What are the ways that we can finally modernize the West Coast road trips that they have to be on? Because they are at a disadvantage. I mean, I don't think that San Jose, LA, or Anaheim are feeling much better about the road trips than Vancouver are. I think that they're all in the same boat. But how do we modernize this?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how they can really do it other than just continue to try and hound on the league to make sure that they're only, when they go out on a road on a road trip. They're not flying cross country 3 times. But unless they completely change the schedule to maybe more of a I don't know, like a Major League Baseball style schedule, there's only so much they can do.
Yeah, I think they're doing the best they can as it is now with the divisional format. And again, there's limited building availability for most of the rinks, with concerts and NBA teams sharing them. So, and in the case of LA, 2 NBA teams sharing the building with the Kings. So it's, I don't know. I mean, nobody's ever good. There's never going to be, 31 teams happy with the schedule, period. You're just never going to get. Even the Eastern teams are going to have their gripes about something.
Truth, but I don't think anyone can make an argument that another team has it worse travel schedule-wise than the Canucks.
Canucks and San Jose are the 2 that usually get the short end of the stick, and Dallas for a little bit as well, just because they're so they're isolated, which is why Seattle coming in is going to help the Canucks and San Jose a little bit. But it's just you got to hound on the league, because there's definitely that's what Gillis did, right? And that's why the Canucks had such better schedules and all that when Gillis was there. And you also got to look at how to travel better and all that. So
we'll see what about Gillis and his sleep doctors.
Well, that's sort of what I was getting at is figuring out how to, because that's what all that sleep doctor stuff was figuring out how to travel better and how to give these players better rests when they're out on the road.
Yeah, so I did just finished the math here for that road trip that the Canucks were on. It is a total of 7,150 miles of travel all the way around. And I'm not including airports, hotels, and arenas. But just to get to the actual cities, that's a 7,000-mile trip. That seems a lot to do in a week. And sure, some people can do it, but I do think that there's a way to modernize that a little bit. Anything else about the Canucks here that we want to talk about?
No, I think we're good, other than leading into Sedin week.
Yes. My only thing with the Sedin, it's exciting to have Sedin week. I wonder, would it have been better to have the retirement last on Saturday night as opposed to Wednesday? Or is Chicago more of a historical rival to the point of the Sedins than it would have been for a Hockey Night in Canada moment?
I think that's probably what they're going for there. The other thing is putting a special event on a weeknight will help, bring more people into the building. I don't think they have a lot of problems selling out a Saturday night game against a Canadian team. There's that part of it too.
Then Wednesday is the other national big appointment viewing night for the NHL and Sportsnet. So going with Chicago, the amount of battles that the Sedins had versus Taves and Kane and all that, it makes sense to me.
That, and you can easily tie the success of the Sedins and therefore the Canucks to the 2010-2011 team, and of course their biggest moment of that season was against the Hawks.
Right.
To me, it just makes more sense as far as a team matchup. That being said, I'm glad it didn't happen on a night like last night, just because we now know how the score turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, we will be doing a review of the 2010-2011 season as part of our Sedin Week contribution, so you'll be hearing that as well. So that quickly, a couple of other quick things here. Hockey Day in Canada, was there anything specifically that anyone saw that was a highlight to them? Yes, from that other than the games, or?
Yeah, I liked watching all of the, like, we had like Sportsnet on and stuff like all afternoon yesterday. I really liked seeing all the stuff in between, the stories of the different people involved with hockey, like not obviously just like the players, but just other people. There was, some of those good sappy stories to cry about a little bit. So yeah, no, it was good. It was, and I just enjoyed seeing it up in Yellowknife, and I think that was a good, it was Yellowknife, right? Or was it White Horse?
Yeah.
I get too confused all the time. Yes. So it was great. It's, I think it's an important day in Canada for us hockey fans.
Yeah, I think that the past CBC and now Rogers, they always do a fantastic job with the Hockey Day in Canada stuff. Ron McLean's really in his element on that particular occasion.
Yes, yeah.
And I would like to add in something, but I was busy snowboarding yesterday, so I didn't catch any of that. But from what I did see on social media, it was like Lanny bringing in the Stanley Cup to them and that sort of stuff. Like, obviously, they, like Tyler said, they always kind of nail the feel-good moments.
Right. Sean, did you have something to add?
Oh, I just said I think the one that really got me was the kid and his sledge hockey and all that, and seeing Lanny break down, giving him a hockey Day in Canada jersey and making him a teammate and all that. That one really got me.
Yeah, that one was my favorite too.
Yeah, and Lanny broke up, everyone else broke up, and this kid was like, "It's just Saturday for me." Like, he just seemed so calm about it. That was so fascinating. But to me, it's like, yeah, that's my day, and that was cool. I didn't put this on the agenda, but there was a fundraiser. The Pig and Duke, for those who don't know, hosted us for our First Together podcast that Tyler was talking about earlier when we went to see the Canucks at the Saddle Dome for that game. And they, during the cold of January, they had to close down for a while, and they had a fundraiser. So maybe you guys were there, want to talk about how things went, where are the Pig and Duke at, and kind of just give us a quick update on that.
Okay, so yeah, for those who don't know the whole story, we had that brutal cold snap for about a week and a half in January, and they had some frozen pipes that burst after things warmed up on both locations. The Pig and Duke is where Chris, Heidi, and I, as well as Devin, frequent far too often to watch all the hockey games and sporting events that we want, or even just to hang out with friends. And we've been very, very fortunate to have befriended the owners as well as the staff. So Stephen and Joe, as well as everyone from the managers of like Jamie and Nikki to the cooks, Dan and Reggie, as well as a bunch of the servers. They're now basically out of work because of because of the burst pipes and all the damage from them. So last night was the fundraiser to raise money so that they can stay with all the employees that want to can stay working for the Pig and Duke and not have to go looking for other jobs. So that was great. We absolutely packed this one, another bar in town at the Township Pub and Grill in downtown, and raised a lot of money to help support those of our friends and family that definitely deserve it.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add that the insurance that the business has only covers the damage. So it doesn't cover any of the lost wages for the staff. So that was the reason why the fundraiser happened, because like Sean alluded to, we're treated like family and we love them like family. So I'm getting emotional right now. For us, it's very much a community, and God damn it, I can't keep it together right now. Does someone else want to talk?
Yeah, it's as Chris said, it's a community, it's a family. It's an important, almost Calgary landmark, actually, in my opinion. I was lucky enough to convince Dan Murphy and John Garrett to go to one of the locations and try their pig burger challenge and try and eat the biggest burger that I've ever seen. And
we're currently working on getting Thomas Drance there too.
Yeah. So yeah, we're working hard to make sure that once they open up that they're just as busy as always. So if you are in Calgary and they've opened up, go visit. Go say hi to everyone from there, and you'll enjoy it as much as we have, and I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, and I'll obviously echo what Sean and Chris said about how just how much of a part of all of our lives that place is, how much time we spend there, obviously, and not just sitting around watching hockey, but it is where our group of friends spend our time. It is our bar, just so much a part of our lives that so this fundraiser last night was really important. It was glad to see some of the staff. I was in a very huggy mood. I hugged a lot of people. It was great, and so I can't wait till we can get back at least to one location or the other, depending on what exactly goes on. But it was a good night, and it was just really nice to just see too, the rest of the community come together, the other regulars, and as well as the craft beer community and the kind of restaurant community and everything else as well.
Yeah, I'm super proud that we packed the shit out of that place. You were shoulder to shoulder 90% of the night, and there was a silent auction there, and the bids on that went higher than I think most people were expecting because everyone wanted to help out. So yeah, to say it was a massive success, I think, is putting it lightly.
Yeah, I'm glad that happened. I'm really happy to hear that, and it just Stephen and sorry if I it's Joanne, right, or is it?
Yeah, Stephen and Joe. Yeah,
Stephen and Joe were not. When this first happened, there was discussions about having a GoFundMe, and they were a little resistant to it. They do want to pay their staff, and anyone that has run a business, it's when things like this happen, it's really shitty, and I'm glad that worked out, and hopefully things can get back on the feet for them quicker than us. And we had a good time there. We may have drank a lot of beer and ate a lot of food there, Tyler and I, when we were there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I at least 5 or 6 mimosas during the recording and then more beers afterwards. I obviously don't have the same, connection to the place, and the owners like you guys do. Me only being there on the couple of occasions on that late December trip, but, just getting a chance to meet Steven and just feeling like we're friends already and feeling right at home, wearing a Canucks jersey in Cowtown. I mean, it was just, it was good. It was very good, just to connect on that level. And the atmosphere is terrific. The reputation is top notch. And so to hear that both of their locations were affected, in such a devastating fashion, hurt. But it's also quite warming to see how people are rallying around them, and so it's great to hear that last night was quite the success.
And if you felt that way after one trip, I think it kind of proves a point of how strong of a feeling that we have for that place, that if you got that feeling off of just one trip, that if you spend a significant amount of time there, then obviously it's gonna hit a little deeper.
Yeah,
for sure. So we'll leave it there. Again, keep an eye out. We'll be doing we're going to review, Sean, Chris, Tyler, and I are going to review the 2010-2011 season, the Stanley Cup run for the Vancouver Canucks as part of Sedin Week, because that, to me, was the epitome of the height of what we saw from Daniel and Henrik Sedin and the Canucks, and probably the saddest, but we'll keep an eye out for that. How do we follow the Pig and Duke? We'll add them in the Twitter here.
It's just at Pig and Duke, spelled out.
Yeah. Okay.
They have it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find them on most social media.
Okay. And how do we follow everyone else?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on Twitter.
I am at Heidi as well as on Twitter and everywhere else in social media.
And I'm at T Noble on Twitter, TNOBLE.
Right, and I am... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I am Schneids on most social media.
All right, and I am KEVOLE on most social media. And you can find us also on Spotify, CastBox, Podchaser, and Podcast Addict. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.